Welcome to the podcast of Torres
Welcome
Consulting.
to a new episode of the Torres Consulting Podcast. Thank you very much for being there. I have the pleasure today of having a really senior role, a professional from the industry, Mr. Abid. How are you?
Very well. Thank you, Pablo. Thanks for invite. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
My pleasure. No, it is absolutely my pleasure to have you here. We've been in the last weeks, in the last episode, mainly focusing on revenue, and it's great to have a different opinion now, get someone with obviously a broader idea of the industry from your experience, all those decades you've been working and leading teams in the industry. So it's great to have you on the show. And as always, first question I'd like to ask you about your background. So it's been a very long career, but if you can tell the audience, like, what made you choose hospitality, and then how was that evolution to reach a CEO level?
Well, Pablo, first of all, thank you for the kind introduction. The way you introduce me makes me feel really old, but I appreciate the kind introduction. Look, this industry has been fabulous industry for me. It has been great to me. I have had some incredible assignments working around the world. Not only that, in that process, I've had the good fortune of working with some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people all over the world. So I have enjoyed it, every bit of it. And if I had to do it over, I'll do the same thing. I really love the industry. But truth be told, I came in the industry as a somewhat of a mistake. It wasn't planned that I was going to pursue hospitality. I was aspiring to be a doctor. And when I told my dad that I was no longer going to pursue medical career, his advice was that not only should I continue to pursue medical education, I should seek medical help, because I had totally lost my mind if I was going to give up medical career to pursue hospitality. But as I said, it has worked out. It has been an incredible journey, which I have enjoyed it a great deal. Started with school, working in a large company who spent time and resources in developing me. I got to experience different markets, different hotels, domestic, US, international, all over the world. So it's been a fabulous journey.
Absolutely. Thanks. I didn't mean to make you sound old. I'd be very, very experienced. I mean, no, I interview lots of different profiles, and I'm lucky to have you here, like someone who's got lots of experience. That's what I meant. Sorry. Now, I mean, I'm going back to that point. I mean, obviously, you've been a leader for many people and a mentor, I'm certain, for many as well. But do you remember from your career any mentor you mentioned, for example, now that company that gave you the chance and to help you and educate you? So can you remember anyone in particular, like a good mentor, a good leader?
Well, look, Pablo, as I'm sure you would know, as we grow in our careers, there are always multiple ways to learn. We get the chance to work with all sorts of people. Sometimes we connect very well, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes the way people work and the way they behave, it resonates with your personality. Sometimes it doesn't. Throughout my career, I always said that if I come across something that I don't like the way things are being done, I'll make sure that if I'm ever in that position, that I won't repeat that ever again. Fortunately, I never had really that bad of experiences, but there are several people that have helped me throughout my career. I would start from the very beginning. Right out of school, I was part of a general management training program and sent to a hotel in Dallas, Texas. The general manager of that hotel at that time was a gentleman by the name of Ted Kazane. He himself had been through a similar program and a believer of training the talent and spending time and resources with him. And he really kept me right beside him to expose me to different opportunities, different departments, which I absolutely loved. And that was the beginning of my career. And from there on, there have been several throughout that have been pivotal. In the last couple of positions, a gentleman who is now CEO of Hilton Hotel Corporation, Chris Nacetta, another fabulous person to learn from, Ed Walter, who is CEO of Urban Land Institute, incredible person, and a gentleman that I worked directly with, Manaz Abji, who was looking after the asset management of a large company. Another great leader, fabulous person that not only cared about what our deliverables were, but truly cared about you as an individual.
Long list of people who, as you're saying, different ways of learning from different profiles. That's brilliant. And as you were saying, we mentioned it before, you've been CEO of different companies, large hotel companies. So out of curiosity, how is the daily life of a CEO? What is the usual routine of a day in the office, let's say?
Well, in this industry, there is no routine, no matter what you do, much less leading a team of people. As a matter of fact, I remember when I was with Banyan Tree, our human resource department had helped me prepare a week of what I was involved in, because I was speaking to a group of students. And it just seemed like I did absolutely nothing other than travel and shake hands with people and socialize with people. But as a leader to a great extent, and I'm a believer of leading from the front, you have to live your values. So I was very engaged, very involved in what was going on with the team, how the business was moving forward, what did we need to do differently. And I would spend most of my regular day interacting with team members or the rest of the stakeholders. Once everybody went home, that's when I would get to respond to the emails and do more mundane things that I needed to do. Granted that it made my days very long, but nonetheless, it was a lot of fun. And as a result, we got to know each other very well and had some fabulous successes to celebrate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. Thanks for sharing. Now going into development and talent about people, the hospitality industry might have not been the one on top when it comes to talent development compared to other industries. So have you seen an evolution in that front? Do you think is more or maybe less investment on talent and development?
In some ways, the industry has regressed, Pablo. I'm a product of a training program myself. I am a firm believer in education. I've gone back to school several times just to make sure that I gain the academic knowledge to stay relevant to how the business is being done today. Unfortunately, in mature economies, not so much in emerging economies, but mature economies, the industry has extremely high turnover. And there are several reasons for that, particularly at entry-level positions. Mostly it's younger team members that are going to school, and this is not a full-time thing for them. And that adds to the turnover. Also, it is a very it's a profession that requires a lot of commitment. So just a simple thing that during holidays, when everybody's enjoying it and they're having a grand old time, if I'm working in a hotel or a restaurant or some other hospitality sector, I've got to work. So all of my buddies are having fun while I'm working. And that is a very difficult thing to overcome. I think the industry needs to adapt and evolve with the younger population coming into the workforce, where for baby boomers, it was all about career and career progression and growth. And that is not necessarily how things are looked upon today. People want to have a bit of a balance. People want to feel accomplished. They attach themselves to the companies that resonate with them, not only just merely the business thing, but their business impact on communities. And I think the industry needs to talk about that more. We are not just competing for talent with another hotel. even though that continues to be people's mindset. But we, as a larger economy, we also competing with the gig economy workers, people that can deliver food or people that are in other businesses. Being that hospitality, it teaches us a lot of great principles. We are ripe for prime picking from other industries. So we're always competing for the right talent, for the right people. And I think industry needs to adapt, not only spend more time in developing people, but also how do we take care of them? How do we make sure that they feel like that their contribution matters? And how do we take care of them, not only monetarily, because that's price of entry, but how do we take care of their well-being?
It's a big challenge. Yeah. It's a big topic there. I don't think it's still in there, to be honest. I was reading the other day about the companies like Amazon and McDonald's having to raise the minimum wage in the States because they cannot find talent. And I think it could be something similar happening to the hospitality industry. If you cannot find talent, given the current salaries, probably you have to raise them. Yeah.
Absolutely. And quite candidly, we might not have compensated people the way they needs to be compensated. And I'm not casting any opinions on whether it was done rightly or wrongly. It was the right decision for the right time. Our business tends to be very thin margin business. So we have to make sure that the business operating model works. But within that, it is, at the end of the day, people business. We serve people, and people are brought on board, hired, trained, developed to be able to carry that out. And instead of the tangible product, we are about service, and services through people. So we need to figure the formula out that works not only from business model point of view, but also from looking after people and nurturing and developing the talent.
True. And also related to talent development, another challenge for the industry has been investing in technology. So historically, technology used to be very expensive, so only top companies could afford it. A lot of smaller companies or independent hotels couldn't. Now it's becoming more affordable. Do you think the hospitality industry is catching up when it comes to new technology, or still lagging a bit behind?
I think we are still lagging a bit behind, Pablo. As you mentioned, technology has been very expensive. Now, whilst it might be a bit more affordable, but it changes all too fast. So me as a hotelier, I might wait for you to try it out. And once you try it out, then I'll take it on. Well, in the meantime, it's changed already. So that's why our industry is somewhat of technophobes. Now, having said that, we might not have a choice in the matter because the customer, the consumer, is going to dictate the minimum technology expectation in our businesses. And unfortunately, with the pandemic, that adoption rate has been exponentially raised. The expectations are raised. The technology development the bar has been raised dramatically. So the industry might not have a choice in the matter, but to adopt it. How do we make it work? How do we make sure that it's the right technology and not technology for the sake of technology, but that it indeed delivers on the points that really matter to the consumer? I think that's going to be the critical element. But with the computing systems that are much faster today, the infrastructure that is far better today, there are things that we can do today that were virtually impossible. This is a prime example. We're sitting far apart and able to have a wonderful conversation and share our thoughts to our colleagues in the industry. This was not possible a few years ago. So I think we need to be prudent about evaluating what tools are available, how can it make us more efficient, but also how can it deliver to our promise to the service industry.
True. The early adopter. challenge for the industry. Now, you mentioned about the pandemic, the adoption of the technology was a big change. There were some sort of two trends when it comes to thinking from what I get from the industry. Some people say once the pandemic finishes, people will be vaccinated, hopefully sometime soon, things will go back to the way they were. And some of the people are saying, well, listen, I think there's been a massive change and the mindset of a lot of people has changed. So the way they will travel, the way they will enjoy the holidays in hotels will be different. How do you see that?
Well, I think on both those ends of the spectrum, they're both true. I'm somewhere in the middle of that. I think certain segments will definitely have changed, whether we like it or dislike it. Human nature is if we behave differently for a long period of time, that becomes our second nature. If I'm trying to get into a habit of working out, I have to do it, I don't know, 60, 90 days, and then I don't think about it. Then it's no longer a problem. I can just get up and off I go. But it takes a bit of time for us to change our behavior. Well, we've been dealing with this pandemic nearly for 2 years. And I think some of our behavior will have changed. One thing that will not change is human beings are social animals. We like being amongst other people. We like to socialize. And also with the wealth creation around the world, people do want to experience other things. I have said this throughout my career. I wish more people would be able to travel and experience different cultures, different opportunities, because we will be far more accepting of differences. A lot of the things or the prototypical profiling that occurs, it's just because we're not exposed to other cultures or other people. So if travel industry can facilitate that, which it definitely does, it just enriches the mankind that much more. So I'm sort of in the middle. I think some things will have changed. Business travel, for example, might be slightly different. Leisure travel might slightly be different, where people might like to have larger spaces and not necessarily in massive crowds, at least with the family traveling together. So bits and pieces will have changed, but I'm of the belief that travel will rebound, and it'll rebound very strongly.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you on that one. There's a lot of pent-up demand wishing to travel as soon as we are allowed to it. Mm-hmm. Now, there are obviously the industry evolves and there are new trends or new segments, more than trends. There's assisted living, for example, in different parts of the world. I mean, the States have been ongoing for many years, but it's growing in other places. Co-living, co-working, remote workers, being able to, digital nomads could be part of that trend or segment. You see anyone in particular that is growing faster you think is going to be a winner in that sense?
Well, one thing, and we touched upon very briefly about the business travel, being able to work remotely has been accepted, whether we like it or dislike it. It's been accepted for nearly a year and a half now. In pre-pandemic environment, there were people that worked remotely, but it was minority, definitely not the majority. But the general thought process was that everybody needed to be in the office because that was providing maximum opportunity for maximum productivity. And in some of it, quite candidly, was the organization placing their trust in people to make sure that the work will continue to get done. I think we've beyond that at this particular point. If somebody commuted in large city, pick London, New York, LA, Bangkok, you name it. If somebody commuted for 45 minutes or an hour one way to get to work, and you don't have to be in the office, it'll be far better for them not to travel, because that time now becomes productive time, either for work or for family. So I think you will see more of a hybrid situation relative to that. So the quote unquote digital nomad terminology, where you can be sitting anywhere and conducting your business, it definitely could work because it's an acceptable behavior today. and not a thing that is frowned upon. Now, you will have to be in the office when you need to be there. So that's why I'm a believer that it's going to be a bit of a hybrid situation as opposed to a binary choice, one or the other. Relative to assisted living, and I'm going to contradict a little bit of typical assisted living methodology. If you read and listen to some of the sociologists, they would tell you that multi-generational living was fabulous for human beings because that's what made us richer mentally and physically. So if we isolate our elderly to go into a facility, that might or might not be the healthiest environment. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of people that are doing a lot of work in creating that sort of village environment with multi-generational living, so that it's you know, the villagers took care of each other. It wasn't so much that my faucet was leaking and I had to call a plumber because my neighbor knew how to fix it. Some of that thought process, I think, is starting to come back. And again, the pandemic might have forced that upon us. But people have also done a lot of work on this thing, that it is indeed beneficial for multi-generational living. Now, nothing, as we know in this life, is absolutely perfect. So there are good things and there are bad things. We'll have to live with it. There is the segment that would like the assisted living sector because they want to be on their own and they want to be independent and do things the way they want to do it. And of course, that helps. And that will continue to grow with the aging population of the world. That segment becomes very important and it has to be attended to.
Mm-hmm. It's a very good point. Yeah, absolutely. Now, focusing on the opposite spectrum of the age. So we're talking about like assisted living, retired people, and going to the young one. What kind of, for the people who are now considering joining the hospitality industry, might be thinking it's a challenging time. What kind of profiles you think they should have to, if they're looking for a career or like successful career within hospitality? Well, you were mentioning before, people have changed generationally and they have different likes and dislikes now. So what do you think could be the current profile to succeed?
Well, look, the first thing I would reiterate again, that this is a fabulous industry. It is very enriching on multiple levels. It might not be enriching in terms of wealth creation, but honestly, I don't know if I would have been able to know as many wonderful people as I do if I was not in the industry. And Pablo, you and I have gotten to know each other. We've spoken several times, we've communicated, and technology has facilitated that. And we are sort of playing in the same box, servicing in the same industry. The younger folks, the future leaders of the industry, I think the industry needs to do a bit of work in attracting them. There, you know, in typical pop culture, defines the careers that people want to pursue. The schools, whether it's middle school, high school, or college education, they need to make sure that the instructions and courses and curriculum that is being presented, it is relevant to what the industry desires. Because I know there were a lot of people that would graduate from hotel school, but they didn't like what the hotel business had to offer, and as a result ended up pivoting to some other industry. Right now, I can well imagine that the future leaders are saying, hey, look, is this really the industry I want to be in? It's so volatile. There's so many people out of a job. And I can absolutely empathize to that. But at the end of it, it is a fun industry. If you are an introvert, you can still work in the industry. You might be working in an area that you can sit and provide the IT support, or sit and do the financing side of the business or analysis. If you're an extrovert, you could be taking care of people when they go to the restaurants, or people that are staying in the hotels, or people that are working in airlines as flight attendants. So this has been the industry that has attracted all different people, all different education backgrounds, all different personality types. And I think that holds true today. So I would encourage the younger students or people that are going to hotel programs and hotel schools today not to give up on the industry, because it is a fabulous industry. It's a lot of fun. You will have opportunities that you might never experience in other professions. You have to be prepared for it, because much like any other career, it will have its ups and downs. But as I can attest to it personally, there are more ups than there are downs. So I would strongly encourage people to stick with it and come and join the industry, because it's a lot of fun.
Perfect. Nice message for young ones. Last question for you I have here. Hospitality Talks, your own podcast, which is on YouTube. You make great interviews to global leaders on completely different and very interesting topics about the industry. Can you tell us more about your podcast?
Well, thank you, Pablo. That's very kind of you. It is a passion project of mine. You know, I have been fortunate enough to have lived and worked around the world. I have great relationships that I've been able to develop in the industry. So when we launched this series, I thought we will connect on a monthly basis, bring people together so that we can learn from it. This was pre-pandemic. And we will meet once a month, and we launched it. Soon after it launched, it went from once a month to twice a month to once a week. And then I was doing 3 episodes a week because people liked the content. Of course, at the same time, we were in the midst of the darkest time in the pandemic globally. So this was a way for people to be able to learn from each other from different parts of the world, because one day we will be interviewing folks in China, and they would talk about what the trends have been. And I'm sitting in Europe and I'm listening to what they experienced. So we had fabulous following, and that has continued. And I hope that we can continue to generate good content that our viewers like and enjoy. And I'm always encouraging people that can send us recommendations for panelists or topics or different markets that we want to focus on, because the content is really being developed for the viewers, and I hope they continue to get the value out of it. But thanks for bringing that up.
No, my pleasure. I really enjoyed the episode. That's why I mentioned it, obviously. Well, and that's it from my side, Abid. It's been really a pleasure learning from you, getting all this knowledge that you're sharing. And again, thank you. Thanks for your time, and hopefully we'll talk again very soon.
Well, thank you, Pablo. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I hope your listeners and your viewers would enjoy the conversation. If there is ever anything I can be of assistance to our colleagues in the industry, I'd be happy to do so. I'm all over the different platforms, whether it's LinkedIn or whatever, or Pablo knows where to find me.
Thanks very much. Yes, Abid. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
That was all for now. Hope you found it useful. Remember that you have more information on our website www.torresconsulting.co.uk, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and Twitter. Stay well. Goodbye for now.